So how can a single post on social media make trillions of dollars move on the stock market? I mean, in just minutes. Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today, this really bizarre, kind of baffling connection.
Okay, so our starting point is this pretty blunt, pretty intense piece of advice right here. But, as we're about to see, this story, it goes way deeper than just politics.
And yeah, that really brings us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? The big question we're trying to answer here. Are we just watching the usual kind of chaotic back and forth of geopolitics? Or is this something else? Like a perfectly scripted money-making game playing out right in the open? So, think about the two main players in this game. On one side, you've got the power to control headlines all over the world with just one post. And on the other side, you've got Wall Street, this massive machine that's basically built to trade on those reactions. That's the real tension here. That's the core of this whole thing. All right, so to really get what's going on, we have to look at the first big piece of the puzzle. And it's this wild sequence of events that happened recently. It gave traders total whiplash and pretty much left everyone else just scratching their heads. So check this out. It starts with tensions with Iran really heating up. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, a post says a deal could happen soon. And the market? Oh, it loves this news. Oil prices drop, stocks shoot up. But then, just a few hours later, Iran comes out and says, nope, not true, no deal. And just like that, all that green on the screen turns to red. Total reversal. So you just have to ask, right? Does that sound random to you, or does it sound a little too perfect? Like maybe, just maybe, someone is expertly playing the crowd to make a ton of money. And that leads us to our first major clue. There's actually a name for this, a nickname that traders came up with. They call it the taco trade. And yeah, it points to something happening just under the surface. Okay, this is where it starts to feel a little suspicious. According to reports, right before that public statement dropped, these massive trades were placed in the oil futures market. Now, that's just people betting on which way the price of oil will go in the future. And the timing, it wasn't just good, it was perfect. Almost impossibly perfect. So yeah, that's what traders have nicknamed the taco trade. And look, this isn't your classic investing, reading spreadsheets and analyzing company earnings. Nope. This is all about one thing: predicting a huge market-moving headline, getting your bet down before anyone else has a clue, and then just cashing out as everyone else reacts to the news. The playbook is actually pretty simple. Step 1, you somehow anticipate a big announcement is coming. Step 2, you place your trades before that news hits the public. And step 3, you sell everything as the rest of the world scrambles to react to the headline. Easy money, if you know what's coming. And the amount of money we're talking about here is it's staggering. This isn't a few $1,000s or even a few million. The swings that happened right after these statements, we're talking about trillions of dollars in value moving around. In minutes. But wait, the plot thickens. If you look at prediction markets, places where people bet on future events, things get even stranger. Apparently, brand new crypto wallets, accounts with zero history, just popped into existence and placed huge bets on a ceasefire between the US and Iran right before the news. And surprise, surprise, those bets exploded in value practically overnight. I mean, come on, at a certain point, you can't just call it luck, right? This whole pattern just screams one central question, the real question we have to answer. How did they know? No. Well, to even begin to answer that, you have to do what they always say, follow the money. And when you do that, the trail seems to lead towards some very powerful people, the ones who live right at that intersection of global politics and high finance. Now, one key figure that comes up in the source material is Jared Kushner. You might remember he was deeply involved in Middle East diplomacy. Well, today, he runs a private equity firm that, by all accounts, manages billions and billions of dollars. And where does that money come from? Well, a huge chunk of it is said to come from what are called sovereign wealth funds. Think of them as giant government-owned investment accounts, and specifically from countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. The very nations whose entire economies can rise or fall based on oil prices and what's happening in the region. So you can see the potential conflict of interest brewing here, right? On one hand, you're involved in talking peace and diplomacy in the Middle East. But on the other hand, there's this massive financial incentive to actually profit from the tension and the volatility that your diplomacy is supposed to be fixing. So, okay, when you put all these pieces together, the crazy timeline, the perfectly timed trades, the powerful players involved, it all starts to form a single theory, a theory about what might really be going on. And it's called narrative warfare. So, what is narrative warfare? It's a strategy where the thing you're trading isn't really the stock or the oil itself. Now, the real asset is the story that's driving the price. You're betting on the narrative. And the craziest part, that entire story, that whole narrative, can be completely flipped on its head with a single social media post. And here's how that cycle of profit supposedly works. First, a powerful figure posts something that's guaranteed to move the markets. Second, the market reacts, like instantly. Third, the insiders who are already in position sell and make a fortune. And fourth, well, who is left holding the bag when it all comes crashing down? Usually, it's the regular retail investors who got caught up in all the hype and all the noise. Okay, so what on earth does all of this mean for you, the average investor? I mean, if the market really is just a game of competing stories, how do you make sure you don't end up as just another character in someone else's script?
Well, the biggest takeaway here is that this kind of environment creates absolutely extreme volatility. And a lot of the time, it feels manufactured. The market becomes, well, predictably unpredictable. It's not swinging based on company profits, it's swinging based on perception and psychology.
So, how do you protect yourself? The advice here is pretty straightforward and honestly timeless. You've got to fight that urge to chase every single headline. Don't let FOMO, the fear of missing out, suck you into a rally. And please, don't panic sell every time the market turns red. Just remember, the short-term market is all about psychology, but the long-term market, that's what rewards real discipline. Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a market that's filled with stories that can literally be weaponized for profit, you have to ask yourself, who is writing your story? Are you in control, or are you just reacting to theirs?